Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. So in today's video, we are going to discuss about procrastination. So let's understand what is procrastination and why do we procrastinate? What are the reasons behind that? And why it is very important that we should understand that what causes procrastination. So first of all, let's see what is procrastination. So procrastination, it is nothing but the act of delaying. Okay, it is nothing but the act of delaying or putting off tasks to the last moment. So it often happens, whether it is our school project, or whether it is paying a bill or making a doctor's appointment, or completing any work. Okay, it may be related to any deadline. Okay, we are putting it off to the last moment. Okay, so instead of completing it within the timeline, okay, we unnecessarily delay it to the last moment. But why do we do so? So there are some statistics. Okay, so let me give you the statistics. It is estimated that around 20%, okay, of adults in US, okay, they are chronic procrastinators. Okay, so why it is, okay, so it's very important that we should understand the reason, why, because it is very common, okay, in among most of the individuals, that from it may be in your professional lives, where you have to meet a work deadline, where you have to do a project, complete it, or within the students, okay, where they have to complete a project within timeline, but they just procrastinate it unnecessarily, whether maybe they have a month to do it, but they are just or completing it at the last moment, maybe the day before that, which creates unnecessary pressure on them. Okay, so let's understand that for that, why do we procrastinate? So for that, the first and important thing, okay, let's try to understand what are some of the reasons behind procrastination. Let's try to understand this. Okay, so the first reason is a lack of a why or an intrinsic motivation. Okay, so this is basically the first reason, okay, why we procrastinate. First of all, it is very important to understand why we need to do a task instead of what is there within the task. So this is something which we shouldn't do. Okay, what is in the task? Rather, we should understand that why we should complete a task. For example, if you have to complete a certain certification, so you should understand why you should complete it. Okay, so like what kind of career heights are going to reach, what kind of goals it fulfills, what kind of skills it adds on to, how it is adding on to your skill set, your requirements, rather than what is there in the certification, which is a big no. Because when we concentrate on what, then usually it happens that we are just focusing on what needs to be done, and it may create unnecessary fear, unnecessary failure tension, and etc etc, and we may just put it off. So rather, this why can in turn act as a motivator for us, that why we need to do the complete that particular task. The second reason, okay, that is basically a very important reason behind procrastination is the fear of failure. So often we procrastinate. Okay, for example, we have to complete an assignment, or we have to complete any project, or whatsoever, any task. Okay, there is a fear of failure, that maybe we won't be able to complete that task. Okay, we don't know how to do it. So that fear of failure works behind, and we kind of try to delay it. Okay, so that is also one of the reasons why we procrastinate. Next is, there is no sense of urgency. Okay, then this is also, okay, one of the reasons that we procrastinate. Okay, we always do those tasks which is very very much urgent, okay, which has to be done, and then only we do it at the last moment. So creating no sense of urgency is also a very important reason behind procrastination. Again is your environment. Okay, that has a very important impact on whether you procrastinate or not. So if you have a harmful you're in an environment where is a you're nurturing a harmful productivity habits, or distracting environments. Okay, in some environments, for example, in some colleges, in the batch, the students, okay, itself, create an like a kind of aura or kind of a environment where they just kind of put it off to the last moment. And a studious student also, who was not a procrastinator, he also starts behaving in the same way. So your environment is also an important factor. Next is your energy level. So if you're operating on low energy level, then definitely that can also be a reason, because you don't have the energy to only to perform the task. Then seeking of perfection, okay, or the perfect moment you want to start on acting on the task. Okay, if people who are just perfectionists, okay, they may just kind of delay it until they have all the materials ready to work on the task or all the knowledge, and they just start they just kind of delay it unnecessarily for that. Next is if you're untrained, okay, on how to complete a particular task, okay, this can also be a reason. Okay, or if you're untrained on how to focus on some matter, that can also be a reason. So these are some of the examples of reasons why what I actually gave to which can actually lead to procrastination. And the next one, let's discuss of some of the strategies by which we can overcome procrastination. So if we're discussing some of the strategies to overcome, you have to first clearly define that why this task matters to us. That's like the first thing that we were talking about, that why the task is important. We are listing down those pointers, that why it is so important rather than what the task is. So that is going to be acting as a motivator. Next is you have to rechannel your fear. Instead of getting scared of doing the task, you need to rechannel your fear into an equally intense or empowering emotion. So what we need to do is we have to rechannel our existing fear in such a way that what can happen if we are not completing that task. So for example, if you're not completing your project on time, okay, you may get less marks. If you get less marks, your overall score is going to be impacted. If your overall score is going to be impacted, you're not going to get admission to a good college of masters, things like that. So again, if you're not completing a particular task within timeline in your company, maybe it will lead to an unnecessary escalation. And if that leads to escalation, that can cause an impact on your appraisal and things like that. So if you rechannel your fear in a way, instead of thinking of I won't be able to do the task, okay, and being scared of that, you have to rechannel your fear into things like what can go wrong if you're not able to perform. Then we can actually have self-imposed deadlines, which is also a very good way to avoid procrastination. So instead of just waiting for the last moment, okay, and understanding that okay, we have time and we are just putting off the task, we can just have self-imposed deadline, which is very, very important and an effective way to avoid procrastination. Then we can change or redesign our environment. Again, the same thing, okay, our environment is in our hand. We can definitely redesign it, so we can reduce our distractions, and it can ultimately boost to our productivity. Then coming to the energy levels again, we can actually sleep well, eat well, exercise well. So that can actually lead to what? It can lead to increasing our energy level. So that can also be an important way to improve our improve on this particular habit of procrastination. Then we should focus on the progress rather than on perfectionism. So focusing on progress is another important way how we can actually avoid procrastination. And another thing is we should actually train ourselves in order to cultivate our focus, which can also help us. So for example, we can do meditation, we can do yoga and things like that. And next is we can actually start prioritizing our work, and we can start taking small steps rather than thinking it in a large way. And that is something which can actually help a lot in avoiding procrastination. Now let's take a step further to it and let's understand actually the kind of science, okay, behind this. Let's kind of go and understand that. Okay, so if we try to understand, okay, what is the science behind this? The science behind this is nothing but, the root cause of procrastination lies in our brain. So in the brain we have different parts. So basically, why do we procrastinate? Let's understand, let's take a step, or further to this. There are two parts of the brain, okay. So this part, okay, it is our limbic system, and this one is our prefrontal cortex. So scientists and psychologists, okay, basically they have researched and found that procrastination is a result of a battle, a constant battle which happens between the limbic system and the prefrontal cortex. Okay, now let's understand what is limbic system and prefrontal cortex. Both are parts of the brain. So limbic system, it is much more, older. First of all, older. It is much more dominant. Okay. And this part of our brain is something which controls, kind of our pleasure center. So for example, all those dopamine hit and, controlling, any kind of emotions. Okay, it is mostly, the center which is responsible for, emotional control. Okay, pleasure center, and it also gives some automatic responses. But prefrontal cortex, okay, it is responsible for all executive brain functions. Okay, and mostly it is more of logical part, and it helps in planning and etc etc. So what happens is, whenever we are facing any unpleasant or boring, for example, you have to complete a task, but it's actually very boring. So instantly what happens, our limbic system will drive towards, a state where, we will have a kind of satisfaction or a kind of pleasure. So that can only be happen if we kind of delay that task. Because, if you are kind of working on the task, that is a boring task and we won't find any, enjoyment in doing that. Our prefrontal cortex will ask us to do it, but limbic system will try to avoid it and maybe, scroll Insta or Facebook instead. So because of this particular conflict, it results in procrastination. So it mostly happens that, our limbic system is able to overpower our prefrontal cortex because it is again more dominant. It is an automatic, or it sends automatic responses. Okay, instantly it will send response. So that is the result, because of this, result of this fighting structure, it results in, delaying a task, unnecessarily delaying a task. So now let's understand, we were discussing about the dopamine hit, right? So let's see what this dopamine is all about. So dopamine is nothing but it is a neurotransmitter. So it is, you can also say it is more like a, kind of a hormone also. Okay, it is basically, it's a feel good neurotransmitter which is pleasure, it has been produced by pleasurable experience. So for example, we are doing this Insta, Facebook, we are so addictive, people do gambling. It's all because of the dopamine hit, because it's a kind of neurotransmitter, which gives a pleasurable experience. So whenever we are, about to anticipate pleasure, for example, we are craving for a food which we like a lot, or we are buying a new dress, or, maybe we are just waiting in the ice cream, we're waiting, just imagining that, we will be having the ice cream. So this is all going to trigger the dopamine hit. And this is also a major reason we procrastinate, because we want to get that dopamine hit. So what will our limbic system do? It will automatically pulls us to do things which will result in this dopamine hit. And the prefrontal cortex, it is the more logical part, the more planning part. It will, help us to know that, we should do the task. But limbic system automatically, dominates. Okay, it gives some automatic trigger, and we will, kind of avoid it. Okay, so basically, if we fall in this trap, where, this recurring trap of avoiding, okay, which happens because of, our limbic system is so dominant, this results in a procrastination. And for people, in which it is very very goes on recurring, they become chronic procrastinator. So now let's understand, is there a way we can stop this? So first of all, we have to understand that we procrastinate. It is not because of a result that we have a very bad time management or something. It is entirely an emotional issue. So if we have to stop procrastinating, okay, that's the result of the video, right? Why we are trying to listen to everything, or understand everything, because in order to stop something, okay, in order to win over something, we should first understand what the issue is. So that's what we have been discussing. So if you want to stop procrastination, then let's see what we need to do. So again, we now understand it is an emotional issue. So if it is an emotional issue, then we have to also think to stop it in some way, which can be triggered through emotion, and not based on in some logic or something. Okay, so with that, I'll just utter the research study. Okay, a very famous psychologist, Dr. Timothy, say that the more purpose we have, the less we procrastinate. So that means that whatever goal or action we are working towards, if we can surface the reason behind why we want to do it, instead of what we want to do, then we are going to less procrastinate. Now let's understand a chain of thoughts for this. Okay, so for example, I need to do an hour of exercise today. This is what I say to myself. The brain will what happen immediately procrastinate, because you have to go, you have to step down from your bed or chair, and you have to go and exercise, and that is a tedious task. And definitely at this moment you just want to enjoy your cup of coffee, or you want to enjoy your Instagram reels you're watching, or maybe a beautiful Netflix series you're watching, so you don't want to do it. But your brain says that you need to do. So immediately what will happen? There will be a conflict between your limbic system and your prefrontal cortex. Prefrontal cortex wants, is just saying that you need to do it, but limbic system wants to get the dopamine hit, and immediately within fraction of seconds, what will happen? The dominant part of our brain will send an automatic response, and you will procrastinate. But then that you are procrastinating. You have to give a strong chain of thoughts to reverse it. So with an emotion only you can reverse it. So then what you can do to yourself, okay, so now I haven't been exercising since last 3 days. So now if I don't exercise, I will get even more lazier. Then I will start gaining weight. I'll start again eating junk foods, and then I have to again work really hard in order to get back to shape, and things like that. So then what will happen? That chain of thought is going to dominate over this entire procrastination. So what you're doing is basically your fear of avoidance becomes much more than the fear of discomfort. So that if you can just can create it, okay, with that emotional chain of thoughts, then we will be able to win over this thought and stop procrastination. So let's try to understand this a bit more. So first of all, this is basically a chain of 3 things. Okay, let's try to understand it with a diagram. Okay, how you can stop procrastination. So the first thing is, you should tell yourself why it matters, like why you are doing a particular task. Second thing, whenever you tell yourself, it is going to motivate you. So whenever this motivates you, you're going to take a small or baby step action towards completing that task. So for example, you start exercising, or for example, you start working on the task. So whenever you start, you achieve something, this will again also release dopamine. So this will again release a dopamine hit, and you can again reinforce the same thing. Again you should the next day you should remind yourself why you need to do it. Again, it is going to motivate you. You're going to take a small action. It is going to release dopamine, and that's how you can avoid procrastination. So it should be very important, with a strong emotional thought, you should explain what can go wrong if you don't take the action. And then you should take a small action towards achieving that goal, which is again going to trigger a dopamine hit. And you could, go on, having this domino effect to avoid procrastination. And believe me guys, if you can avoid procrastination, you can see a drastic improvement in your life. Because in every phase, whoever you are, whether you're a student or you're a working professional, or you may be anyone, but whatever work you are doing, okay, maybe you're just a simple housewife also, okay, in every kind of work, it's going to help us if we stop procrastinating, because it's going to make us much more active. we can achieve a lot more, if we can learn this particular trick of not procrastinating. So with that, I'm going to conclude. I hope you like this video. Please share your comments in the comment box, and please like, subscribe our channel. Thank you.